What's good, everybody? It's John. I'll come back at you on a video. So this video is going to be about the true measure of wealth. And with this video, I'm not talking about financial wealth, right? Of course, when I use the word wealth, most people immediately think money. But this video is not going to be about this. Video is going to be about what true wealth is, right? Because there are people that can be some of the richest people in the world, and yet if they are unhappy, what is all that money going to do for them, right? There's a saying that money can't buy happiness, and this is true, right? And there's going to be some other people watching this video that might disagree and say, oh well, if money can't buy happiness for someone, then they should just give me their money because I'll make sure the money makes me happy, because I'll just go on vacations and I'll travel the world and I'll go on adventures and I'll eat, right? And all that sounds good, but it can eventually get to a point where it feels like you are escaping, right? The same idea how some people go on vacation and they go on vacation to escape their current life, right? At least to take a break from everything, right? Whether it's like a weekend or a week, right? However much time it is, right? Usually people who are, not happy with their day-to-day or where their life is at, they'll use these vacations as their getaways, right? To escape that. And if things in your life are not to your liking, right? You having all that money, it'll essentially serve as you trying to escape, right? And you're not necessarily building, you're not necessarily growing. So eventually it'll get boring. Eventually it'll get tiring. Even though you have access to do whatever you want at all times, right? At a certain point, it might not feel meaningful anymore if you're just mindlessly spending it for the sake of spending it. It's like, what are you learning? Sure, you can experience new things, but what are you learning, right? You're not learning, you're not improving, and that's not what actually matters in this lifetime, right? So I have a quote here on my phone. It says, the true measure of wealth is by the amount of things that someone has that money can't buy. I'll say it again. The true measure of wealth is by the amount of things that someone has that money can't buy, right? Because first off, not all money is good money, but money cannot buy everything. Happiness is one of them. But money can't buy other things either, right? There's people who try to take shortcuts in life, and by shortcuts, I'm referring to compromising their values, compromising who they are as a person, compromising their integrity, compromising the values that make them or that make you, right? People typically compromise that for money. And that is never going to be a worthwhile trade-off, because the moment you do that, that is when you begin to feel a discord within you. That is when you begin to feel guilty and out of place, because you are trading something that is invaluable, right? Something that you cannot put a price tag on for something that you can put a price tag on, and that's money, right? Money is always going to exist. Money comes and goes, money flows, right? But your values, your integrity, your morals, right? Those are key to your own identity and your own happiness. Those are variables that are key to your internal wealth, which is a true wealth, right? Because in order for you to create external wealth, right, or material wealth, you need to first be wealthy internally, or to be wealthy in spirit. Because as you're wealthy internally, you are happy. When you're happy, you are feeling good. And when you're feeling good, you're at your best. And when you're at your best, you have your best ideas. And that leads to you taking the best action. And you are in the perfect place to be creating, right? This is how it works. So having money is like, that might be great and all, but it's never going to be more important than the internal wealth that you have. This is why there's been many celebrities in the past, many people who were wealthy, who had all this money, that they were just unhappy and they no longer wanted to be here in this life existence because of their unhappiness. So it can't be that money can buy happiness, because then that would mean that wealthy people should never be unhappy because they have all this money. And yet you hear time and time again, right, that money is not everything, because it can't solve all the problems. It can't solve internal problems, right? A lot of times these internal problems that people face, right, sometimes they have money to mask it, right? They have money to keep themselves entertained, to do all these things, because they're afraid to look at themselves in the mirror, or they're afraid to reflect on the person that they are and the person that they become, right? See, the interesting part about money is that a lot of folks fell into the trap of the numbers, right? The numbers in the bank account, the amount of dollar bills that someone has, and the numbers that's on the bills, and the price tag of things. And so because of that, because of these numbers, right, people have come to believe that if you're looking at $10 million home, if you're looking at a $40,000 purse, for all the ladies out there that loves purses, right? For a luxury designer purse could be $40,000, anywhere from $5,000 to like $40,000. And people get infatuated with these prices, and they've come to believe that these things are expensive. And sure, the number would be on the higher side, right, for these price tags, but these things aren't actually expensive, right? And people fall into that trap believing that these things are. How can something be expensive or so expensive when it can be replaced, right? If anything happens to that $40,000 purse, the company still has the blueprint on how to make more. The company will still have the materials available to create more. It's just a lot of times they put things at that price because they want to sell you on exclusivity, right? And even if the price tag is $40,000, if that thing can be replaced, then it can't actually be that expensive, right? Same idea with a supercar, right? There'll be a company that will release a supercar and they'll say, oh, this is 1 in 5 in the world. And so that justifies a $5 million price tag on the car. Well, it's only 1 in 5 in the world because the company decided to only make 1 in 5, right? They still have the blueprint and they can always just make more if they wanted to. But they didn't because they wanted to, of course, sell a car that was extremely exclusive and put a big number on the price tag. But it cannot actually be that expensive because the parts can always be gathered again and the car can always be remade. And just because it has a $5 million price tag on the car, that doesn't mean that is the price of the materials and the labor it costs to make it, right? Same idea with that $40,000 purse. That purse that's priced at $40,000, it can very well cost only $100 to make that purse. And that's me being generous, right? For like the leather, the labor, right? Let's just say on the high end, is me being generous, it costs $100 to make that purse. And yet it has a $40,000 price tag. That purse is not worth $40,000. But because that is a price tag assigned to it, it leads people to believe that that's the worth of the purse. When that, right? Like it's like they're just selling you on exclusivity. But once again, it doesn't matter what that number is. People are led to believe that the things that cost something are actually expensive when these things are in fact cheap because they can always be replaced. If there was a $10 million home and something happened to the home, right? Say some sort of natural disaster wiped the home out. That home can always be rebuilt because the materials can always be gathered. The blueprint can always be obtained. The architects can always be hired. The materials can always be purchased and the house can be recreated all over again, right? So that's not, it can't be expensive, right? But you as a person, the values that exist within you, the mind and the heart that you were given, the love that you're capable of providing and receiving, right? Like the pride that you have, all of these intangibles, all these things that are not physical, that you can't hold in your hand, right? These are the things that are actually important. These are the components that actually create the wealth that exists within you, the internal wealth, right? Having, honesty, operating with honesty, being a good person, having the right attitude, more operating with morals and integrity, being someone that's respectful, right? These things are often overlooked because they don't cost anything, because they were given to you for free at birth, right? Everyone was born with a mind. Everyone was born with the heart, right? Everyone was born with feelings and emotions and, having value. Of course, you were like taught values, but you were also innately born with values too, right? Like you, I'm sure, want to be a good human being and you want to function in society, right? So you were given all these things for free. They didn't cost you anything. And yet most people don't place any emphasis. Either they place very little emphasis on it or they don't place any emphasis on it at all because they were given to us for free at birth. because it didn't cost anything, because everyone has one. And so it's easy to think that it's not valuable if everyone has one, right? If everyone was born with the mind and the heart, it can't be that valuable because everyone has it, right? But that is what's actually valuable. That is what's actually important, right? Now, the second part of the quote right here, it says, true measure of wealth is the amount of things that someone has, that money can't buy. And then it says, because some people are so poor, all they have is money. And that's true. There are some people that don't have anything good to offer, that they are just miserable and broken people on the inside, right? And that all they have is money. And so that's sort of like what they fall back on. It's like, I may be a horrible person, but I have more money than you. And that's how they judge their own self-worth. Well, money is never going to be worth more than you. So it's a very backwards lot. It's very illogical to say, right? Because at least back then, going back in history, there was a time where money didn't exist, where humans would simply trade. So if we as humans created money, then how can the creation ever be worth more than the creators, right? How can something we created ever be worth more than us? I just don't think it's possible, right? Because if we created that, then we can create anything else. And we have infinite creativity and infinite imagination. So how can that ever be worth more than us, right? It can't. And yet people see it as such. People see it as like money being worth more than them. And it's backwards, right? You need to take that idea out of your mind. There's no amount of money that could ever be worth you. There's no amount of money that should ever compromise you, because your values, what you have internally, the love that you have for other people, the goodness in your heart, right? Your honesty, your integrity, right? You don't ever want to compromise any of these values for money, because that is never going to be a worthwhile trade-off. There's so many people that have tried doing it to try to shortcut their way to financial success or, career success, right? And they end up just being someone that's broken on the inside because they feel empty. Because when they didn't have money was everything, because they believe that money will solve all their problems, that money will improve the situation. But people, for a lot of folks, when you don't have money becomes everything. And then when you have money, you realize that money is not everything. And that is what really affects people who've compromised their own values and honesty and the integrity. When they get there, that's when they realize that they can never get back what they gave up for the money, right? So this video right here is just to remind you of the true measure of wealth. And the true measure of wealth has never been finances. True measure of wealth is not you going on the Forbes list and seeing who has the most money, right? The true measure of wealth is what exists within you. It's the love that you have for yourself, for your friends, for your family. It's how you are as a person. It is your growth as a person, right? You improving. It's you being able to look in the mirror and be happy with what you see and love what you see, right? Some folks out there, they have money and so they spend money to distract themselves. They spend money so that they don't ever have to reflect on their life. They spend money so they don't have to ever look at themselves in the mirror to see the person that they become, because they know that they won't be proud of that person, right? You will have true wealth based on all the things that you have in your life that money cannot buy, right? Money cannot buy true love, because there are people have a lot of money. There are going to be people that are going to want to surround themselves with you because of what you can provide and because of what you can offer, but they won't necessarily be around you for you. And I don't think anyone wants to be in a situation like that, right? I think everyone wants to be around other people that wants them for them, right? And so many other things, right? The things that we were born, the intangibles, the values, the things that we were given to at birth for free, the things that don't ever cost us anything, these are the components that are actually most important and most valuable. And these are the components that contribute to true wealth, which is internal wealth, right? Not external wealth, right? Money is money. Money comes and goes. Money flows. Who cares, right? Money is simply an exchange of value, right? But money is not going to buy you happiness. Otherwise, the richest people on the planet, at least financially wealthy, like the people with the most material wealth, should be the happiest people in the world. And we know that that's not true, right? So The more of the more of you being in tune of who you are, of your true self, and the more love you share with other people, and your kindness, and you just being a great person, a phenomenal person, and you growing, that's what's actually important. These are the things that money won't necessarily be able to assist you with, right? But these are the things that you can actually be proud of, and that is how you end up living a fulfilling life. So that rest of the video, enjoy the video, to leave a like and subscribe as we're on the road to 1 million subscriber, guys. So once again, it's Joel, and I'm out. I'll see you guys for the next video.